Hello all. I was accepted into the School of Visual Arts with a scholarship of $20,000 per year. Pratt with a scholarship of $18,000 per year, which they later upped to $28,000 per year. California College of the Arts with a scholarship of $30,000 per year. School of Art Institute of Chicago with a scholarship of $23,000 per year. Otis College of Art and Design with a scholarship of $24,000 per year. Savannah College of Art and Design with a scholarship of $18,000 per year. And the Rochester Institute of Technology with a scholarship of $24,000 per year. I was also accepted into Emily Carr in the Ontario College of Art and Design in Canada. Animation is a more competitive major, which is why for schools such as SVA and RIT, the acceptance rates for their animation programs are significantly lower than their overall acceptance rates. Also, my portfolio is very far from perfect. Most of the portfolio videos I've seen have seemed kind of uncharacteristically good, and also haven't really mentioned much about merit scholarships that they've gotten. So this will hopefully be a better look into what quality of work can get you accepted into these schools and how much that translates into scholarships. The portfolio I submitted for all of these schools is mostly the same, however there are a few deviations between them, I'll note. SVA was my top school, so a large part of my portfolio was tailored to things that they said that they were looking for, one of which is sketchbook drawings. Along with this, I wanted to put all of my life drawings first and finish off with my more creative pieces. I feel that these drawings help to give the reviewer a sense of what I'm like as a person, while also showing the few strengths I have in life drawing. Looking back, there's not really a good reason why I included the hands. I had just seen hands, their feet drawings, in all the portfolios I've looked through before, and couldn't think of a better place to put them. The next piece is another collection of sketchbook pages from a family trip I went on to a few different locations in Norway. I got feedback a while ago from a CalArts professor who was teaching a pre-college class that I was in to make words look nice if you're going to include them in your sketchbooks, or to do nice typography. I also got a lot of feedback from a portfolio review I went to that my drawings don't have much environment or look like they're floating. I tried to work on this by including more environmental drawings, but I think it still might be a weak part of my portfolio overall. These are all also from photos because it was cold and snowing the whole time we were there. But most schools emphasize including at least a few life drawings in your portfolio. Also, I would highly recommend attending Portfolio Day if you can. I saved $200 in application fees, so even if you don't want the advice, just going to get your application fees waived would be worth it. My next piece is another collection of sketchbook pages. This one is mostly from a trip I went on to New York City. More birds and ugly typography, not much else to add. My fourth piece is, believe it or not, another and final collection of sketchbook pages. All of the admissions people I spoke with at SVA encouraged combining multiple pages of artwork into a singular PDF to submit, but this isn't the case for every school, so be sure to check. They'll usually specify if they don't want you to do this somewhere in the portfolio tab of the college's website. These are the first pieces in my portfolio and admittedly a little underwhelming. I wanted to start off with them though, since I do feel they gave the reviewer a sense of who I am as a person, before diving into more typical life drawings and practical skills. My first non-sketchbook piece, and actually the oldest one in my portfolio, it's a charcoal drawing of a draper I did from life that I made in art class my sophomore year. It's also the only drawing in here from an art class that isn't a pre-college one, since I don't know what it is about high school art classes, but I've done pretty terrible in every one. The fifth piece is another charcoal drawing of a model that I did in an SVA pre-college course. The class was online, so it wasn't drawn from life. Also, you can't tell from the photo, but both this and the drapery piece were massive in person. The next piece is just a few more gestural life drawings that I did at various points. Two of these I used tinted charcoal for, and the third is done in colored pencil. This is the first piece of my sketchbook that was drawn from imagination. I made it for the same pre-college course that I did the charcoal figure in. I'm not really sure what I was going for with this, and I've redone the color so many times that none of the versions look right anymore, but it's kind of cool, maybe. I don't know. Maybe it works. I really enjoyed doing this eighth piece. I felt like it conveys gesture and movement really well, while also showing off my understanding of anatomy. I honestly had no clue what to do for the background, but it could have turned out worse. The next two pieces are each collections of fantasy portraits I made of D&D characters from a campaign I was in with my friends, and some of the pets we acquired in aforementioned campaign. Some of them look a bit funky, and they're all pretty simple, which is why I decided to combine them all together instead of giving them each individual spaces. But I had a lot of fun making them, especially drawing all their ears for some reason. By the way, make sure you're properly photographing and scanning your pieces. That was the biggest piece of advice I got at the portfolio day I went to 2.5 years ago. I used an app called Cam Scanner that's free, and one of the professors at Portfolio Day recommended it to me. But there are lots of other free apps that scan documents and artwork out there too. The next piece is a logo design I did for a local business, but the business is actually using it, so I'm not going to include it here so I don't dox anyone. Just vibe with these circles for a bit. I decided to close off this part of my portfolio with a digital environmental drawing, since I don't really have that much environmental or digital artwork in my portfolio. I've gotten a few different answers from admissions counselors on their thoughts on digital work. I've heard some say they don't care, one say they don't care for more creative pieces, but they prefer life drawings to be done in traditional mediums, and one say they also don't care, but they'd like to see at least a few traditional works in a portfolio. I prefer traditional mediums for larger pieces, mostly since I'm bad at digital and I can't get the same amount of character into digital pieces as I can with traditional, so most of my portfolio ended up being non-digital anyways. On to the final section of my portfolio, actual animation. I made a reel of a bunch of animations that I've done, lots of which were very experimental, so to say. There's one that I did in charcoal on large newsprint paper, and one that I did with ink in my sketchbook, and one that I did with pencil and tracing paper. The one with tracing paper ended up being the smoothest since I was actually able to use onion skinning on it, and I wasn't with most of the other ones that weren't done in a digital medium. Also, 3 of them feature characters from the aforementioned D&D campaign, which the character portraits were also from. This second piece of animation is a mini short film I only included in my portfolio for SVA, since I made it at SVA at a summer pre-college program there in 2023, and I feel my skills have improved a lot since then, but I figured I might as well include it for my SVA portfolio.
I will overthrow all of humanity.
The final piece of my portfolio was another short animated film I made last August, right before I started applying to schools. In the end, I ended up deciding to go to SVA